What's up, my fitness knights? You know what it is, another day back in the gym. So to start this video out, I'm going to talk to you guys about which heads of the tricep you have and which exercise does what and how we can really target those exercises. So the first workout that we're going to talk about is tricep pushdowns or tricep cable extensions, and this is when you're going to be grabbing a rope. You have a crook bar or a straight bar option. You're going to be grabbing it with both two hands and then using and extending your triceps downward using your lateral heads. And what it does when you use the lateral head of your tricep, this is going to be the side of your tricep that almost looks like the number 9. What this does is it helps you for things like pressing or like push-ups. You have bench press, we'll use the lateral head of your tricep. And what this really does is it helps stabilizes your movements. I wouldn't say that this is what really gives your arm that look of being bigger, but what it does is it gives your triceps and your arms more of a stability point to where you can lift heavier weights. So say I wanted a bigger short head or a bigger long head in my bicep, what I would actually need to do is focus on the lateral head of my tricep. In doing this, you're going to cause your arm movements to be more stable, be able to lift more weight, and achieve hypertrophy at another level in order to enhance your muscle growth dramatically. So with that being said, some good exercises for lateral head pushdowns are going to be rope extensions. You know, just grab a rope, and if you're trying to tone up, do anywhere between 3 sets of 12, or if you're trying to gain some muscle, 3 sets of 8. You could even add a drop set in there from 8 to 12 to reach hypertrophy. Another great exercise you could do this with is single arm cable extensions. So that's going to work your lateral head, and single arm cable extensions are going to be really, really good for just striating. So I'd like to use these at the end of my workouts to help really send the blood there and help build a pathways for blood to be sent to my triceps in order to really striate and make my triceps grainy and my arms look vascular. So that's something that you could use and implement in your workouts every day to enhance your lateral head stability and enhance your lateral head muscle growth. So another exercise that we can do outside of just the single arm bilateral cable extensions as well as push downs for rope, you could also use a crook bar extension. And a crook bar extension really just helps, I would say, get the most weight that you could possibly push. I think when you're doing rope for lateral head extensions is not as much weight that your muscles can handle or that your triceps can handle. You can extend them, and you can extend them at a good rate, but you can't really reach max strength. If you want to exercise that's going to rip your triceps up, rip your lateral head up, and try to add beef in that area so that maybe you could enhance your curls. So when doing cable crook bar lateral extensions, you're going to want to keep in mind a good range of motion for yourself, something that you can feel out. You can feel that the blood is being sent to your triceps. You can really feel that I'm connecting with my muscles right now instead of going through the motions. And what's really tough about working out is if you do too little of weight, you're going to get injured. If you do too heavy of weight, you're going to get injured. So during your exercises, you really have to find somewhere that's in the middle of the sweet spot, and that's what we're looking for when we're doing when we're working on our lateral heads or when we're doing push downs and tricep extensions. So now we're really going to get into the meat and potatoes of it. This is where your arms are starting to look bigger. This tricep extension is going to really help your long head of your triceps. Anything that you're doing that's going to be overhead extensions, those are going to make your arms get this big dip in them at the bottom, make it look like your arms are almost 3 or 4 times bigger than what they are. And it also helps the short head of your tricep, especially when you're doing the long head of your, especially helps the short head of your bicep, especially when you're doing the long heads of your tricep. So it's the long head of your tricep and not the short one, which means it's going to take up more mass on your arm and more muscle on your arm. So what you have to do is kind of train it like that. If you have a smaller muscle group, you can train it. You don't have to over extensively train it to have it look how you want it to, but you have to train it correctly and give it the right amount of volume. But when it comes to long heads and your tricep, it's the same thing. You want to give the right amount of volume for the muscle group for the muscle that it is, and it's your long head, meaning it's a lot of muscle. So you have a lot of room to train in your triceps. So what you can do, and I'm going to give you a variation of exercises to help improve your long heads, is overhead skull crushers. So skull crushers is a basic exercise that's sometimes neglected because people might feel like they can get injured with it easily, and how you can avoid injury with it is using cables. So you can do overhead rope long head extensions, which just you can do it standing, or you could do it bent over. And I'm telling you, bent over overhead extensions are one of the best ways to feel a great pump and move as much mass as you possibly can for weight. So that's something that's really great. Keep in mind, this is going to take up a lot of your workout and a lot of energy to your workout, because this is a bigger muscle group in your arm, and it really shouldn't be neglected. I know we try to work out our biceps as much as we possibly can, but definitely don't forget about your triceps and the long heads of your triceps, because that's going to give your arms almost the most mass and most volume and make it look the most defined and very, very thick. So with that being said, we have our overhead cable extensions, and that's working our long heads. And not only do we have our overhead cable extensions, but we also have our crook bar overhead extensions. And when you're doing a straight bar or a crook bar overhead extension, this is going to allow your hands to almost act as like it's a compound movement. Like, it is a compound movement, but when you have a rope in each hand, you know what you're doing? You're destabilizing the movement. It's almost like you're doing a bilateral tricep exercise in a compound way. So what you want to do is take your crook bar, because if I'm doing a bench press, I'm going to be able to lift most when I have a straight bar instead of a bilateral movement, meaning one arm then the other. So with that being said, a rope is going to limit your press and your press ability and the weight that you can produce. So what you're going to want to do is get a straight bar, and this is really, I wouldn't say it's for maxing out, but this is for reaching hypertrophy and getting to a point where this is for sure going to rip my muscles. And I know this is, like, I would say towards middle and like the third, fourth of your workout, because this is where your muscles are already, I would use this exercise where your muscles are already fatigued, but you really want to add that, like, I'm making sure that I'm ripping my muscle fibers right here, and when I wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna get ensured growth, and I'm gonna make sure that, like, my body is growing. If you don't lift harder than what you previously did, then the odds are that you are going to remain the same. So you have to take it to the next level, and the next level of intensity, and the next level of mental ability every single time you do exercises in order to grow. And there's nothing wrong with, like, being comfortable with your body where it is. You know, if you like being 175 pounds and you move through the air better and using your physiological state, you like being in that space, then that is something that I would encourage you to do. But if you don't like where your physiology is at, and you don't like moving around at 165 and you like moving at 185 pounds, what you need to do is keep growing. And how you keep growing is you stay in a caloric saturation, as well as upping the weight and upping the intensity. And if you're not doing those things, you're not going to get stronger, you're not going to put on weight. So with that being said, overhead tricep extensions for your long head using straight bar compound movements are going to be one of the most enduring things for your muscles that you can do in order to make sure that you have really thick triceps. That's going to round out your entire arm and your entire flexus. I mean, everybody wants to go, like, where's the beach at? You know, everybody loves a good gun show. So you just got to keep that in mind when you're doing that. And another thing that you can do, which I'm not a really big fan of, but, you know, close grip is not to be neglected. So when you're hitting your long heads, you shouldn't just hit one angle, like with your hands slightly apart, or with your hands further apart, or with your hands almost together. You have to hit all three angles. And doing this when you're hitting all three angles, what it's going to do is it's going to round out that muscle body of the long head tricep. And you're going to be able to push more weight. You're going to be able to see more defined tricep entirely. So that's one of the things that people often overlook is they think, okay, if I'm doing my long head exercises, I'm just going to take one grip and just do a bunch of the one grip. It's like you can't just do a bunch of one grip on overhead presses for your long head. What you're going to want to do is a bunch of variations of grips in order to work your long head of your tricep, and that's going to make it to where it's grainy and vascular and pumped up, and you're going to have a great time doing that. So with that being said, those are some tips and tricks on your lateral head of your tricep as well as your long head of your tricep in order for you to reach hypertrophy at a next level or get your arms bigger. So I'm going to come at you guys again with another workout video that's more scientifically broken down, I guess, on how you can enhance your muscle growth naturally and enhance your muscle growth doing the right workouts, and how you can build your body a way that you want it based on the workouts that you need and that your body wants you to do. So you know what it is, Fitness Nights. I'm taking off. I'm gonna talk to you guys next time. You know what it is. Oh yeah.